enjoy the effort.
It was a day
The Bud Grant Report. Brought to you in part by your 88 very independent Chevy dealers. And by Midwest Federal, your good tree to come to for shelter since 1891.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Bud Grant Report. Just back from Detroit, where there's no place like home for the Lions, who maintained their unbeaten record in the Silverdome with a first-half avalanche over the Vikings en route to a 41-21 win. Bud, I'll let you explain it.
Well, I don't know that you can explain something like that, but I kind of had the feeling before the game as on the pregame meal, and we were a little flat, and it just weren't really ready. But that's not always a true indicator. Sometimes that, just backfires on you. When we watched Detroit warm up, I thought, gee, they still have the after effects of that shellacking they took in Chicago. They weren't really fired up either. And then when the game started, of course, the gifts that we gave them, well, they hit us good, and they made some plays and picked up, some tip balls and got those 3 turnovers, and that seemed to ignite them, where it kind of put a damper on us for a while. It took us too long to get on track after that, and then it was too late.
You said that maybe perhaps the team wasn't as gung-ho as they were in the past. How do you sense that? Is it something just to be quiet, or is there an attitude? How do you
Well, I wish I could sense it and do something about it, but sometimes you have a good week of practice, and everything looks good, and then you get to the game and it doesn't turn out. I don't think anybody's ever figured that out, but whatever it was, we all drank out of the same pail because, it affected everybody.
Including the coaching staff?
Well, I'm not sure that we could play. I mean, we were involved, but we can't play. I mean, you have to get out and make things happen and do things, and when the ball's on the ground, it's amazing how one team will pick it up every time and the other team won't, and the tip balls and the alert things that happened out there, they seem to take advantage of them. They got heart from all of that. And, we've been involved in a lot of close ball games right from our preseason, all of our preseason, right on through. Every play has had significance in every game almost. And here we haven't had a blowout, or we haven't been blown out. Well, we've got the blown out over with. Now we can just have a blowout once. It'll feel good.
Does it translate at all into effort, Bud? Can you tell if the players are putting out 100%?
Well, you sometimes put out more and get less, and that's frustrating. I mean, you're putting out, but you're a step behind or a step late, or it's a little behind you, or a little above you, or something like that, and it's frustrating.
Well, some of the players I talked with after the game said they felt the same as they always do before a game, ready to play, but defensive end Doug Martin did sense that something was off kilter.
To be perfectly honest, I felt a little weakness in attitudes going out for the game. It was kind of quiet, it just didn't seem the same, and I just thought it, may just mean something in the passing, but when we got out on the field and I saw how things were, starting to go, I figured, hey, these guys are really, kind of down, emotionally. I don't know what the problem was. Maybe because we played later than we usually do, but you can't afford to do that in this business. And you saw what happens. It happens when you do. You just get blown out of a ball game. And, it's kind of sad, but that's what happened.
And talk about turnover troubles. Detroit is most advantageous when opportunity calls. Today, 4 Viking miscues led to Lions scores. This season, Detroit's defense has forced 27 turnovers, converting 18 for a fine 66% into touchdowns or field goals. And Bud, the Vikings, you mentioned, gave Detroit an opportunity early here.
Well, we had some fumbles. They're in a good, good hole. We ran the ball pretty well. And then the ball's on the ground. Now, somebody's going to pick that ball. We got, 3 people there to their 1, but they're alert and quick enough to pick it up.
You had an opportunity to get it right back.
Well, here it was. Here's the ball on the ground. A good hit. There it is. All we got to do is pick it up. Rufus, who's got good hands, anybody back there, can't find the handle, kicks it out of bounds, and they also get a first down on the play.
Same drive, Hipple goes to work. Leonard Thompson.
Well, lots of time, play action. Leonard Thompson, of course, great speed, veteran player. runs the corner route, puts it down on the 5-yard line, and you know, we held them for a play or two, but then they came back and throw over the middle. Jones, good hands, you know, big play maker for them, gets the touchdown.
Here comes a tip pass by Eric Williams.
Next series, tip ball, it's up in the air, they bounce it around, and the thing they did, they caught it. You know, it could have fallen down, but it's a one-handed interception catch, and those are alert and good plays. And then Moore bangs it in for the touchdown finally.
Kramer went to work to Anthony Carter, who had an up-and-down game. Early time was a little bit of a struggle here. Lost the ball after this reception.
Yeah, on a quick slant, and he catches the ball, tries to avoid somebody. The ball's on the ground, bounces up, bounces down again, rolled around, and they finally come up with it.
It's a nightmare watching this again.
It's a shock when you're on the sidelines, believe me. Then they run a play that we've run. We call it a tight end runs a tear behind the line of scrimmage. Stu Voigt used to run that once in a while, and you know, they run it in for a touchdown and catch us on a blitz down on the goal line.
Well, it's 24-0. You're only 2 minutes into the second quarter. What do? Take your game plan and rip it up and start all over again, or what?
Well, you always think, well, if it can happen to, you know, to us, it can happen to them. You know, maybe those things even out in a ball game, and just to, you know, to stay after them, try to get something on the board at halftime. Hopefully we can regroup at halftime. You know, not be 24 behind, but maybe be 17 or, you know, or 14 or something, and we can come back from that.
Everyone will look at the Chicago Bears as a team that does everything right so far this year. Maybe they are perhaps the only team that's good enough to overcome turnovers, that their defense is that good that perhaps the Viking defense, had they been able to stop Detroit early on after those turnovers, would have made a little bit of a difference in the game.
I think when you're playing somebody of your own caliber, the turnovers can make a difference, and the big plays. You saw in the highlights, you know, of the games played every week that it's always some tip, interception, something rolling around, something you can't practice, but something that just happens that makes a difference. And many times when you find scores like this, where there's a big discrepancy in the score, it's the team who has gotten the benefit of the turnover, scored a couple of defensive touchdowns, or gotten those plays and moved it down into scoring position that accounts for two touchdowns or 10 or 17 points that make the difference between a 21-20 game to a 38-20 game.
Well, the Vikings could muster only one score in that nightmarish first half, a touchdown strike to Anthony Carter. We'll talk about the emergence of AC, and a bit later, a close-up look at the Vikings' top trainer, Fred Zamberletti, right here on the Bud Grant Report. Well, Bud, when you're down 31-7, obviously you need a lot of points in a big hurry. We saw the Vikings use a hurry-up offense to try to get some points back. By the same token, I was wondering why you didn't try the onside kick more, even in the opportunities that you did have.
Well, you know, we'd worked on the onside kick, as we do every week, and Saturday. They were perfect. I mean, you know, we got the right bounce. The high bounce is what you want. In the game, we tried it a couple times, didn't get the bounce. In fact, we tried it before every game. And, yeah, and, you know, they were good before the game. But yet, we felt that we could drive the ball through there, maybe carrying off somebody, but nothing was going. I mean, all the skills that we have, none of them came to the fore. It just didn't work out. We were trying some other things, trying to kick it in the corner and things of that nature, and hold them down there. Tried 2-minute offense in the first part of the third quarter, things of that nature. But finally, we fell so far behind that time was against us when they had that one long drive and scored a touchdown in the third quarter that put us out of the game.
Wade Wilson went in for Tommy Kramer. Just wanted to get Wade some playing time.
Well, just get Tommy some time off the field. I mean, he was getting beat up. He cut his hand, left hand, early in the ball game, and just change things around. We've got to come back and fight another day. And Wade always does a good job when he gets in there. So he did it, and he did a good job, really.
The Vikings did manage to pass for 248 yards. That total virtually split in half between Kramer and Wade Wilson. Right before the half, Kramer to Mike Jones here, Bud, for 45 yards.
Well, it's down the middle, and Mike gets away with a push right there. He pushed that guy in the back and got the ball down the 10-yard. I think the officials were...
They felt sorry for you.
I think they felt sorry for us, is right.
Anthony Carter catching a touchdown pass here.
Well, we see all three people. Well, we're on a slant in, and Tommy picked the right guy and really drilled it down in there, and AC caught the ball.
Oh, did we ever see his skills on this play?
Yes, a break-in similar to the one he caught and fumbled, except this time he got a little bit ahead of people and got the quick moves. And you're right, the last week he's looked as good as he's been, as he's done since he's been here, really, in practice and everything else. So I think we'll see AC come along.
Until today, Carter had caught only 14 passes against Detroit in the Silverdome, where Carter once helped the Michigan Panthers To a USFL championship, he snared 6 for 102 yards. We asked AC about today's performance.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. I tell you, I never dropped as many passes as I did today in my life, and the fumble, which they end up going down and scoring, and it hurts, and you can't look at the good things because those things are going to stick in your mind.
Mm-hmm. You give Detroit credit, or do you think it's more the Vikings' fault what transpired?
They play good ball, but, you know, we had a lot of turnovers, and that hurt, and you can't win when you make those type of turnovers.
You feel good about at least being involved in the offense a little bit more this time around?
Well, every receiver would like to be in the offense, but once you drop a lot of balls, it's in to drop you back out of the offense, so hopefully that I can get a lot better.
We saw Anthony Carter at his best and had some shaky moments today, too. Has it been a real tough learning process? You hear that term so much in pro football for Carter to come over from after playing in the USFL and coming to the Vikings system, Bud.
It is and it isn't. It is. The thing that bothered AC is the fact he pulled a muscle which he's never had before, has missed some time. He's been in and out, missed training camp. You know, that type of thing, the coordination with the quarterback. You see the speed and quickness that he has. Now, quarterbacks have to get used to that. So when he's coming in there, he's coming like a dart. I mean, you got to put that ball hard, and you got to put it, in front of him so he can catch it and do his thing. Not every receiver runs the same routes, and it's just that coordination because he hadn't been able to practice full speed. Now that he's into that groove, I think you'll see him be more productive and get the ball to him a little more when he gets a chance to work full speed with our people.
He's played a lot of football, too. He hasn't had much time off since January.
Yes, but I think you can tell just by the little bit you listen to him that he is very conscientious, and nobody feels worse about dropping a football because he literally does not drop the ball.
Anthony Carter, we will be seeing a lot of him in the future. All in all, it was not a memorable performance by the Vikings, certainly. When they beat the Lions in the Metrodome November 3rd, Darren Nelson rushed for 122 yards. Today, the team rushed for a total of only 60 yards, with Nelson held to 30. Of course, those early turnovers made such a big difference. Meanwhile, Detroit not only took advantage of its opportunities, but also the turnovers. It also dominated time of possession, giving the Vikings little chance for a comeback. After the game, we talked with a number of Vikings, and here's what they had to say. Well, Darren, anything that could have possibly gone wrong went wrong for the Vikings in that first half. When you started the game, it looked like you were going to continue doing what worked well against Detroit last time, did it not?
Well, yeah, things were going pretty well. I mean, we started fumbling and giving the ball away. Yeah, you can't do that against anybody. You know, it kind of reminds me of when we played San Francisco. You know, how they kept giving the ball back to us. Except in Detroit's case, they kept scoring when they had the opportunities.
You know, when something like that's happened, it's the defense's job to go out and stop them. You know, and we did. We had our backs against the wall. They made some big plays with those interceptions and the turnovers, and we weren't able to stop them. That's what it came down to. And, you know, you take the teams like Chicago that are successful, they go in and they shut them out in 3 plays. And, you know, their offense has great confidence in their defense. And we went out there and didn't get the job done in those situations.
Where do the Vikings go from here? What kind of an effect do you think this loss will have on this club?
Well, you know, I can't predict that any more than you can. It's, it's something that's kind of going to shake us up a little bit, I think. I don't doubt my ability or my teammates' ability as a result of this. I'm just wondering why some things happened the way they did. It's just, you know, we got to give a lot of credit to Detroit. They made the plays. They guessed right a lot of times. But like I say, you know, there is next week to look forward to, and that's about the only good thing I can say about today.
He has no touchdowns. He has never been an all-pro, but he's probably had more time on the field than any other Minnesota Viking over the years. If you don't remember collecting a bubblegum card with Fred Zamberletti's face on it, don't worry, none were ever made. Fred is the Vikings team trainer, the man who patches up knees, tapes ankles, and the guy you see helping the injured from the field. Don Shelby has our sideline report.
He was there when Fran Tarkington took the field for the first time, there from the beginning. 501 Viking games ago, Fred Zamberletti signed up to tape the ankles of this fledgling NFL team. 25 years later, Zamberletti has never missed a Vikings game and has maintained a relationship with this team of ours longer than any other one, save Max Winter. On the occasion of Zamberletti's 500th game last week's against the Packers, we focused our cameras on him. Before the game starts, before the injuries, Zamberletti is combination cheerleader and unofficial coach.
Okay, big boy. All right, then, let's keep that. A lot of patience today, a lot of patience. We got to have this one today. You're going to need that leadership out there today, buddy. Bring you back fresh. I saw those legs of yours, boy. They look fresh.
But let the game begin, and Fred, the cool technician, physical therapist, preoccupied with a handful of Vikings playing in pain and nursing injuries, sometimes gets involved in the action.
Move it, he's moving! Keep him moving over there. Delay game! Delay game! Take a look at it. It's obvious.
Zamberletti loves football, loves disputing the calls just like the rest of us. But his job is keeping the players healthy and in playing condition. So when someone pulls up lame, like Doug Martin in the first half of the Packers game, Zamberletti goes to work.
When he come on, my stance good. I pulled it out when I was chasing him on the side over there.
I saw that over there, yeah.
Fred orders eyes for Martin's back, tells him to walk out the muscle strain. He tells the defensive coach Martin is out of the lineup for a while. Fred is solicitous of Martin's back, always checking to see how it is.
Yeah, see if it eases up here a little bit. See if it, let me know how you're doing here.
Wait a minute, where are you going, Fred?
I'm going to be down here.
Down here is the sidelines, watching the game. Zamberletti knows Martin's back injury is not serious. But what happens next could be. Tim Newton is down, a knee problem, and Zamberletti is on the field for the first time in his 500th game.
Just relax. Take a couple of deep breaths. We're going to take the fourth timeout.
Zamberletti says part of his job is reassuring the player, taking away any fear that this is the injury that could end a career.
Just move your foot up and down, Newt. That's it. Bend your leg up and down. Straighten it out. Dude, you're walking on, your mama might be watching on television. You're walking like that, she's not going to like that. Just like that limp out of there.
Zamberletti serves three masters. First and foremost, the health of the players. Second, the coaches who need their best players in the game. And third, his own need to see the Vikings win. So after a thorough checking and a rest, and determining that Newton is not too injured to play, his bedside manner sounds something like this.
They need you in here to play. Oh, Millard jumps offside. We got to get you in there, Newt.
Back at the game, Zamberletti on the sidelines, watching for injuries, watching for first downs. Darren Nelson breaks free and moves the ball close. Zamberletti moves like a coach to another patient, Ted Brown, sidelined with spasms.
We're going to need you down there, Chief. We're going to need you on that goal line to get that ball in there.
But as the fourth quarter rolled around, the Packers began to deflate Zamberletti's hopes that his 500th game would be a win, despite Fred's scientific efforts to stop the Packers scoring drive.
Get a sack. Get a sack in here.
Don't worry, Fred. There's always game 1000. And if Zamberletti has his way, he'll be there on the sidelines playing nursemaid and mother and cheerleader and conducting his own private pep rally. Fred puts it most succinctly. He says, I don't ever want to retire.
Get some pressure. Get some pressure. Get some pressure. Oh, no.
Come on, Fred, take some of your own advice. Shake it off. We need you in there. I'm Don Shaw.
Fred Zamberletti. Bud, how do you measure the value of a man who's been with the Minnesota Vikings since day one?
Well, you can't. If we've got any advantages, you know, Fred is certainly one of them. And it's the confidence that he conveys to the players and the honesty that he, you know, deals with them, that they can believe him when he tells them how long they're going to be, and that they can go back in and they won't, you know, do any harm to themselves, and invaluable.
He really is more than a trainer. I mean, he really is a confident at times, too.
I think that's true, and I think that's part of a trainer's job, because he's also, they know that anything they say in front of him or around him is never going to be, you know, brought back to any of the coaches, and he's privy to a lot of things that we don't know about, but he has the confidence of all the players, and on top of that, his skills as a, you know, trainer, treating injuries and speeding up Mother Nature.
Nice work, too, by cameraman Dave Halpern on that story. Speaking of injuries, what is the Vikings' injury status, Bud, for coming up the next week against New Orleans?
Well, we lost two players during the game. Rufus, on a good hit on the sidelines, shoulder separation. We hope it's not real serious. Holt, a sprained ankle, we've kept him off. He came off on crutches. I don't think it's that bad. He'll, determined by the swelling tomorrow and whether we, put him on reserve or whether he's going to be back in a week or two.
It'll be a busy day for Fred Zamberletti tomorrow.
He earns every dollar. He's not overpaid.
In just a minute or two, an update on the continuing locker room controversy and a look at next week's opponents, the New Orleans Saints, right here on the Bud Grant Report. From our mailbag this week, we find a letter supporting the Vikings' case against the media in the locker room. Bill Sims of Minneapolis writes, "Is there no private place in this land that TV cameras don't intrude? Can't a man shower and dress in private?" Well, actually, Mr. Sims represents a minority of phone calls and letters we have received concerning the locker room situation. Today in the Silverdome, the saga continued. Now, just last week in Detroit, a federal judge ordered the Lions to offer equal access to both male and female reporters. The Giants locker room, by the way, was open last week for the first time in the club's 61-year history. Today, the Vikings locker room was open to everyone, but next week, we'll be back to the new policy. The cameras will be waiting into a separate interview room. Well, now, on to next week's opponents, the New Orleans Saints. At Milwaukee, Green Bay blew past the Saints 38-14. New Orleans offense could only muster 200 total yards. On paper, Bud, they look like a team that's ready-made for the Vikings. They're in trouble right now. But.
Beware.
I knew you were going to say that.
All the teams are good enough, given the opportunities that we can present a team on any given Sunday afternoon, to beat you. New Orleans is no exception. And the thing is that they came up and played outside in Milwaukee. They're going to come up and play in the dome where they're used to playing at home, and that they should feel better about that.
Phillips is having some tough times down there.
Well, he is, and I think he's made some moves that just haven't panned out. He signed Hebert, the quarterback, and now he started the first game and they had 200 yards offense. So we'll read and hear all about that this week, but I'm glad we're playing them at home and not down in New Orleans.
I know you're just thinking about or will be thinking about New Orleans, but you look at it right now, you got to win them all and hope that a few other teams lose or make the playoffs.
Well, we got to win 5 in a row. It's not unheard of.
Not at all.
We go to work this week, and New Orleans coming in, and maybe it's the beginning of something new and better, and we can win 5 in a row. All we got to do is get that ball to bounce like it did for us in the San Francisco game at the beginning of the season, and maybe we've given up all the gifts that we're going to do this year.
Well, we'll find out next week in the Metrodome. Bum Phillips and the New Orleans Saints will be back with highlights, insights, and features right here on the Bud Grant Report next Sunday night following the 10 p.m. report. Have a pleasant week, and good night, everyone.
The Bud Grant Report. Brought to you in part by Midwest Federal, your good tree to come to for shelter since 1891. And by your very independent Chevy dealers.